Hello everyone, welcome back to League of Legends DFS Esports Breakdown for the June 19th DraftKings slate. This is going to be a pretty quick video. I don't want to rant about anything too much here. We go ahead and just get into it. Quickly recap yesterday. So we had the IG Top Esports game. Oh yeah, we had three. We had the V5 getting a 2-0 over LGD. These games are actually a little bit closer than you would have imagined. V5 to get the 2-0, but they had to come from behind and win game one, I believe. I think game two was kind of one-sided, but actually I think maybe they came from behind a little bit in game two. Either way, these games are actually pretty close. I think V5 is getting a little bit overhyped, maybe. We'll see if they do end up keeping Xiaolongbao and Dream in. If they still have this exact same 5-man roster for the next series, it's going to be pretty interesting. We'll just leave it at that, but I'm not too high on V5 at the moment with these substitute players. Top Esports IG, so I did pick IG to pick up the underdog upset here. They were actually, I think, in it. I think these games are actually relatively close. The better team ended up just kind of pulling apart and winning. They actually got outdrafted pretty hard, I think, in game one. The Talia pick made it pretty unplayable for IG. Nobody could really do anything against the Talia E. I thought it was a pretty smart pick there from the Top Esports pick side. And then IG just couldn't really hang with them in game two, although it was pretty close. I do think overall I'm not too unpleased or unhappy with the not picking the right team here, because I do think they were actually pretty close games, and at the big plus 360 price or whatever IG was at, I'm pretty fine with how close the games were. So not too much there. Weibo versus Team WE, again, this is something we see from Weibo pretty consistently, and that's why I typically don't like picking them. I like picking against them. But they were kind of all across the board. They looked extremely dominant in game 1 and 3. Seemed like they were cruising, but then they lost this game 2 in between. So it's just like, I don't know what team shows up sometimes. Like game 1 and game 2 Weibo were like two entirely different teams. Same with game 3. Like they looked really strong in game 1 and 3, but then game 2 they looked a little bit lackluster. Team WE seems not that great still, but they seem kind of okay, kind of relative to expectation, which is, being about a bottom 5 team. I think this was, again, more of why I typically don't like looking at the Weibo side, because they are wildly inconsistent. So yeah, that summarizes that. We could go over to the LCK quickly. Again, I'm sorry, this video is coming out a little bit late. That's why I'm kind of speedrunning all this stuff. So sorry if you guys are looking for a little bit more insight and stuff. But over in the LCK, kind of exactly what we were expecting still. Pretty low scoring kills, long game times, especially in the second series. That is something I touched on yesterday, was how slow these games are in the LCK, that you'd probably want to try to prioritize an LCK team slot position. Definitely would have mattered. The DRX team slot ended up racking up like 73 points or something, which is pretty absurd for the team slot. So that's something to keep in mind, going forward, that getting these one-off of the LCK team slots definitely make a difference here. So that's something to keep in mind. Pretty interesting slate. First series is AL versus BLG going for, looking ahead at this slate tonight. You guys don't really have to kind of guess where I'm leaning here, but BLG are already looking to make a roster swap. They're bringing in Icon for the mid lane. That doesn't bode too well for them, or for how I view that team, honestly. And I think, if you look at the context of the slate or of the league as a whole, I actually think this is a pretty close match. And I have looked at the odds already, and I could say that, we do look at the if we do look at these odds for this game, BLG should not be a minus 425 favorite here. I think that's pretty egregious, and I think we're continuing to see AL getting significantly slept on when it comes to these betting lines. AL was pretty bad, at some points last split, but they definitely are live in a lot of spots. AL's kind of like I don't know how to describe it really, but they're just kind of like a perennially bad team. So they're when they are actually decent, it seems like the odds take a while for them to catch up to. And I think they're actually relatively decent. I think they've looked really strong in both of their first two series, and I think this is actually a pretty close match. Um, it doesn't look that great if you do some MMA math, but again, we talk about that all the time. You know how we compare League of Legends to MMA, and the MMA math would say, um, BLG in a close series lost to LNG. AL lost to LNG. They both kind of lost to LNG, but BLG did better. So you would say BLG is the better team. Again, that's not how I really view these things. I think AL's aggressiveness definitely will have some problems with BLG. And I think the fact that BLG are already looking to swap out their mid laners is a little bit concerning. So all these things adding up, I just feel like there's a good amount of value here on AL. I'm definitely going to be loading them up on DraftKings and maybe a little bit in the betting markets as well. I think they've looked pretty good in the forward pressing aggressive style, and BLG's on a team I typically think of as a good team that can absorb the pressure and do well with it. I think maybe they can a little bit, but not to the fullest extent. And I think that's going to be the difference maker here. I think BLG is not going to be able to withstand the AL pressure, and I think AL is going to be able to get the job done probably in 3. I do think BLG will be able to take a game and make it a close series, but I'm liking AL to get the underdog upset win. This line feels a little crazy to me. The next one up is LNG TT. Again, you guys kind of already can guess where I'm leaning here. Although I do think this one is kind of close. I do think this one is closer than the odds suggest. I think maybe if the slate was a little bit different and we needed an underdog, I definitely think there could be a chance or like an idea to get out TT here. Because this minus 600 LNG feels a little crazy to me. However, I'm not going to get it away from it really. I like LNG. I like them a decent bit here. I think this is going to be a pretty good matchup for them as well. I do like TT, but again, I have LNG as the best team in the league. Going into the split. So early on here, this is still about the second week or so. So I'm just still going to be kind of leaning more heavily towards my preseason expectations, that kind of stuff. And they haven't really shown anything to drive me from that. So I'm going to keep LNG as probably my number one team in the league at the moment. And for that, I'm going to have to side with them here. I'm sure they're going to be losing sometime eventually, but I don't think TT is going to be the spot here. I do think TT is underrated overall. So I'm going to be looking at TT as a team to pick and coming up in the future, but this is not going to be the spot for that, I think, against the number one team. Then over in the LCK, we have T1 KT Rolster and then Dom1 Live Sandbox. I don't want any part of either of these when it comes to the LPL or LCK. I might try to look and see if the summer has enough context here that we can look at this. So filter teams, we have Anyone's Legend, BLG, it was LNG and TT, Thunder Talk. Then over in the LCK, we have T1, KT, Dom1, and who was the last team here? Live Sandbox. So if we look at these like combined kills per minute and stuff, I mean, all these teams in the LCK have only played one series, but it's still pretty low stuff. In the LPL, we do have a couple of series to go off of other than the TT one, but it's looking relatively close, but I still am heavily favoring the LPL players and the LPL staff here. Looking over, again, I think it's going to be a similar approach, as we continue going forward. I like the LPL players a lot. I like the LCK team slots a lot. The Dom1 and T1 team slots are definitely possibilities here. Dom1 team slot didn't do great in game 1. In the first series, T1's team slot did decently in the first series as well. LNG's is definitely viable because they just put up decent amount of points. I rarely suggest this. I think most people in any form of DFS esport or DFS at all would recommend you just look at the game logs. That's kind of a silly way to look at it. But I think when it comes down to looking at team slots, that can tell you kind of a lot of what you need to know. You just need teams that play for dragons and towers and barons consistently, and that's just going to appear in the team slot previous scores. So we look at LNG. I typically look at for their 2-0s because I do think these are going to be 2-0s. LNG at a 62, T1 had a 64, Dom1 only at a 54, but they can have better scores. I do think Sandbox puts up a little bit more of a fight than Fred Brion, so I think all three of those team slots are viable. But then, as I typically do say, I would prefer looking at the LCK ones. We'll look over at the players. Let's see. The players we're looking at are LNG and AL. They do have a couple series each, so I'm going to go ahead and look at the sample size for just the LPL Summer. I know it's going to be a super small sample, but I'm interested to see how it looks in that situation. So AL, LNG. We'll look at just kill participation. So Forge, Chocho, Doinby, so maybe potential double mid laner there. For top laner, I think that's again where maybe it is a viable strategy to maybe get a one off of a top laner, like maybe Zeus or Nuguri, have decent what am I trying to say? Like scores, especially Zeus. I think his numbers are pretty strong. Actually, so we'll look at that for top laners here. So this is looking at the LPL and LCK Spring. We'll look at T1, Dom1. I wonder, do I want to look at Spring? Let's try Summer. T1, Dom1, AL. I think we need to we'll just try AL. T1, Dom1, AL, and LNG. So yeah, we need anyone's legend. And then I think for Dom1, you need to put Dom1 Kia. This search can be a little fickle sometimes. What is the Dom1 name on here? I know it's like DWG Kia. Dom1 Gaming Kia. There we go. And so again, this is going to be a super small sample, but I just want to look at the top laners here. Yeah, Zeus's numbers are pretty crazy. Nuguri's are a lot better. So yeah, I think maybe if you do look over in the LCK, you can maybe try a top laner one-off of Nuguri or Zeus. You probably would look towards Zeus, but it kind of depends on how your builds and stuff break down. So that's something to look at. I probably would think that those are viable. Like if you do want to do like a one-off of Zeus and then like a T1 team slot, and then just do like something weird like one-off of Doinby and like an AL stack with Forge Captain. Although I probably wouldn't recommend that just because of what we've seen from Betty's numbers. His kill share and kill participation is usually pretty crazy, so I would definitely like to get Betty's numbers there. So yeah, that'll be it for me today. Again, sorry, just a little bit of smaller video, getting this video out kind of late, and I just want to get out the information. So that'll be it for me. I'm looking at AL. I'm looking at pairing them up with LNG. When it comes down to what teams are like kind of more active, I guess we could kind of look at that. LPL, we'll look at Spring, I guess. Thunder Talk, LNG, Anyone's Legend, and who was the other one? Of course, BLG. So it does look like AL BLG is the better one. I would prefer AL, but again, I do think LNG versus TT is definitely still viable. So if we look at wins, looks like AL definitely dominates and wins a good bit. When we look at losses, it looks like BLG give up a good bit in losses. So AL would be the preferential stack, but again, LNG does have good sweep potential. We know that they can put up numbers as well. So it would be AL1, LNG2, but again, we talked about a couple of ways to get unique. Try to get maybe like a LCK top laner or LCK team slot in the mix as well. So, good bit of ways to get unique and look at the slate a little bit differently. So that'll be it for me today. Best luck to you guys all tonight, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow at around the same time.